Hello, everyone. This is Ben, or Coach Ben from Andale Racing Club, and I wanted to give kind of a recap from the PsychoWyco trail races that took place yesterday out at Wyandotte County Lake Park on Sunday, February 20th. I'll start by saying it was challenging to say the least. There is a 10 mile, a 20 mile, and a 50K variety. It is a 10.3, 10.4, somewhere around there, loop. It is a bridal trail, so it is a horse trail. So it is pretty hardcore. It's single track in a sense, a little bit wider than what you would see from a normal single track. Very rocky, very root filled, quite a few little gullies from repeated kind of horse path or horse trail. To give a little background into the day, so I've ran this race numerous times. I've done the 10, I've done the 20, I've done the 50. My dog, Charlotte Chocolate Milk, actually has the course record for the 50K and for the 20 miler, but she's getting a little too old to run with me out there kind of at that speed anymore. I'm in the middle of an 18-week training cycle for the Go St. Louis Marathon on April 3rd, which is a Sunday as well. And so I did a little bit of a modified taper. I did the last week of the 18-week training plan the week before this race, or the week of this race. So kind of backed my mileage off, some of the intensity. Still did some speed work this week, but, kind of took it a little bit easy. Now, where it gets a little challenging is you get about 1,400 feet of elevation gain over the 10 miles, and it might not sound like much, but rather than getting it over like you're going up a mountain, it is just up and down, up and down, up and down the entire time. Not a lot of flat whatsoever. But I ran this trail hundreds and hundreds of times. I would consider it my home course. So I know where you can push it, and I know where you kind of need to back it off a little bit and save some energy. Well, the week kind of led up to a great, I don't know how to say this, but I like kind of rougher conditions. The alternate chili run, which is an aptly named race because it's the alternative to the chili run, was about 5 weeks ago, and it's just one loop on this, so a little over 10 miles, one loop, and I won that race. I took first place overall. It was completely icy, so had to screw your shoes. There was very little traction whatsoever. You just had to kind of know where you can gun it and where you can't. I ran really hard, really good at that race, felt great, felt like I had a lot left, and still ran a really good time around a 1:20, which is a pretty good time, I'd say. Top 5% of people who run out there probably time, so good time. The week leading up to the race yesterday was pretty normal until Wednesday into Thursday, where we got about 9 inches of snow over the course of probably 12 hours, maybe a little bit more than 12 hours here in Kansas City. And in some places, the trail got drifts up to 2 feet. I talked to a gentleman when I got at the race on Sunday morning, and he said it was, they were gone out on Thursday, and that it was, pretty challenging. A lot of what we call post-holing, which is where if you imagine you're running in a foot of snow and no one has ran in it, and your foot just posts all the way down to a foot deep, so you're kind of trudging through it. So I knew what to expect. I like those conditions. Now, it had gotten a lot warmer on Saturday, and it had really started to melt. And then yesterday it got up to nearly 60 degrees, so I knew it was going to be a rougher kind of a go. But still thought I was pretty prepared, ready to go, felt really good. Got there early, got in about a 30-minute warm-up. I did about a 15-20-minute run, and then did some dynamic stretching that I like to do. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's my preferred warm-up method. I like to be ready and already have broken a sweat before I get to the start line. It was a shorts and a long sleeve t-shirt day. Probably could have done with a short sleeve t-shirt. Um, Headband, had my Brooks Cadence, had those screwed, had my, the screws in the bottom. Didn't carry any water. Not even though you can, and a lot of people choose to. I do like to use the aid stations as a break, take a little bit of a drink and stop for a second, actually just walk. Just another thing that I've always liked to do. So started out and knew immediately it was going to be a challenge. The first probably quarter mile is across this big field up to the first climb, and it's all snow. And myself and the eventual, I believe the 50K winner, went out together, and we kind of paced it for the first 3 miles right next to each other, or I guess single file as we went up. He kind of let me do the lead, which in retrospect, I should have just let him be in the front because I knew eventually he would be around me. His name's Cody Jones. He's a really talented runner, especially trail racer. He's a really good trail racer. So we made it up, and it was already really slick. Deep snow, real slick. Shoes were getting pretty soggy early. Made it that first 3 miles into the triangle. It's called the PsychoWyco Triangle. That's about a mile little loop off the Bridal Trail that you do. Let Cody go. I stopped at the trail or at the aid station because that's the first one, about 3 miles deep, and let Cody take off, and then just kind of chased him through the trail, pushing on the downs. Just like I intended to do. I felt pretty strong in all my training so far, hitting all my goals, all my goal times, all my distance times, my hill work, my speed work. But it was probably at the dam. So you run to about 5 miles, and then you have to run up this dam, and it's about a half a mile to 3/4. It's probably a half a mile hill, and it was so you're running diagonal up a hill, and my feet were just slipping the entire way up the hill. Was exhausted. Like that hill made me so tired. And then you get to the top of the hill, and it's the only section of road in the entire race is another probably quarter mile straight up this road to jumping back into the woods. Made it through there, got to the top of the woods or to the top of the hill, and you race back into the woods down this thing called Speed Ridge. Got into Speed Ridge, flying down this hill. This is where we first encountered these really big drifts. So I'm talking like 2 foot of snow that you're just bombing through. It's so much fun. And I like running fast, especially on the downhills, and was going through pretty good and not too far behind Cody. I could still see him at this point. And so you go down this hill, and then there's these huge, signs that say slow, slow, slow. And I've run this a bunch. And so I think it used to be called like broken leg turn. And then you turn and then you skate down. It was just slipping and sliding all the way to the bottom. And then you get to a flat point. You're all the way back below where the dam was, but just further west of it. So then you make this next series of just switchbacks and trail all the way back up to the top, and then you start going back through. Well, I don't like to look at my watch, and I had yet to look at my watch. I was really slipping and sliding. My legs felt pretty heavy, and got to the 10 mile. The first loop is over. So getting ready to come through the aid station. And I've been hitting all the aid stations, taking water, I don't exactly have the greatest diet when I'm running a race. I've had some pretzels, I've had some M&Ms, I've had a little glass of Coke, water, but I'm not cramped. There's nothing like that. I do take S-caps. I took an S-cap before the race. It's essentially sodium and potassium. Got through that first loop, got to the start-finish line where you start your second loop, and was pretty exhausted. And my first loop time was 1:33. So 4 weeks prior, I had ran that exact same loop in icy conditions, fast but icy conditions, and about 1:20, 1:21. So I'm 12 minutes slower. That's over a minute a mile slower, and I could feel it. So you start back out, start heading back in this loop again, and at this point, I am in first for the 20-miler, and I believe there are now 2 50K runners ahead of me. Well, it's now where this big snowfield is before you get up to that first hill again. It's just packed down. So I'm like, oh, this is sweet. I like this. So kind of running across it, no big deal. Like there's like a worn foot wide, maybe a foot and a half wide path, packed down snow, soft, slippery, but packed down. So run through that first section, doing fine. Get up to the start of this hill, get to the first. So you cross this road and head into the Bridal Trail, and it is just mud. The entire thing is mud. You could try to go to the outside of the trail, but it's just chewed up and snowy and sloppy and slippery. The best way I can describe the snow is think about trying to run uphill in mashed potatoes. It's ridiculous, but it's really what it feels like. You just can't, even with your shoes screwed. I had poles in my car. I've never ran with poles out there. Didn't want to do it on a race and just try it out of nowhere. I use them when I do 14s out in Colorado, but thought, no, I don't need them today. I wish I would have had them. So it's just mud fest. It's sucking on your shoes. Your shoes are soaked. There's nowhere to get out of it. I'm trying to stay on top of rocks as best as I can. Make it up this first hill, and I'm already like, this is gonna be terrible. This is gonna be hard, really hard. And I ran this first section. It's just completely muddy. So I like to run right through the middle. I'm not gonna try to fancy it up and run on the edge. Ran right through the middle, hauling, still trying to do well, not hauling. I thought, okay, I could run another 133. I could probably do that. So I'm running, and realize it's going okay, but I'm fatigued, way more fatigued than I thought I would be. Now, here's a note. So I did probably not make the greatest of decision the night before. I went to a concert at the Record Bar in KC for this rapper named Prof, who is based in Minneapolis. I like him. I'll be honest, I like him. He's not everyone's cup of tea. I haven't been to a rap show like with young people, evidently in a long time. I was on my feet probably from 7 to 11 to 11:30. Kind of bobbing my head, doing whatever, staying a little bit far back. I wasn't near the stage. It only holds like 400 people. Good show, very intense, very loud. Like one of the loudest shows I've ever been to in my life. But I was on my feet the whole time. Probably not the greatest of ideas. But I had a good time. The show was pretty good. I took one of my best friends. He thought it was terrible. So that was my night before. It wasn't really the routine I should have done. And in retrospect, I know that. But I mean, come on. So I get to what's called Fall Downhill, which is the hill you take before you get to the dam. And at this point, I'm having to walk or power hike because you can't really run on some of these ups. They're very steep, rocky, rooty, and it's just a mud pit or snow pit, slush pit, whatever you want to call it, just all through all of the trail. Get to Fall Downhill. I'm like, well, I like to run fast down the hill, so I'm running pretty fast. And then I did have a really cool thing happen. Marsha Rhodes, shout out to her. She's an awesome person. Her son runs track for me at St. Therese. And I came up behind her group, and she just lets out a, Coach Ben, you're killing it, which it does feel pretty awesome. Here's a note to also a little segue. There are the 50K and the 20 miler start at 8 a.m. There's a 10-mile race that starts an hour after. So at this point, I'm passing a lot of people on the single track, trying to get out of their way. They're trying to get out of the way. People were fantastic about trying to move, letting us run through, letting us try to keep our speed. Well, when I passed her, it really did give me a big shot of adrenaline. And she said, you're in first place, which I knew, but still, it felt, it feels good. So then we get to the dam again. So I get to the bottom of that hill, and I've got to do this dam and then the road again. And the dam was 10 times more miserable than the time before. And the time before was miserable. You could get no traction. I mean, I think at this point, I've probably fallen like 4 or 5 times. And most of those falls were forward where I could catch myself. But you had to walk it. I don't know how you could run the dam. I mean, I'm sure some people did, but I couldn't. And then I got to the top of the dam, and then I did run the road back up before you hit Speed Ridge again, and was pretty worn out. Got to Speed Ridge, and my legs are heavy. I mean, heavy, way heavier than they should be. My feet don't hurt, but my thighs are just shot. So head down Speed Ridge, passing now those 2 foot snowdrifts are now just like canals, like these little troughs that you're running through. Made it through there, legitimately skated after you turned right, hard right, 90 degrees at Broken Leg Hill or Broken Leg Turn. Skated down this next I think it's probably about 40 meters, straight down back to where you're below the dam. And then I started on my way back up. And I'm walking a lot at this point, running the flats, running the downs, walking the hills. So, and what happens at this point, at least what happened to me, was I start to get pretty dispirited. Um, you know, I'm still smiling, but I'm not enjoying it as much because it is really hard. It's a struggle. It's not easy. Not that I was expecting it to be easy, but it's work, and you're really focused because you don't want to fall, so you can't go too fast. But you want to keep moving because I know there are people trying to catch me. So I get about 3 miles out from the finish, and that's when I got passed. And I thought it was a 50K-er. I didn't say anything to him when he passed me. He passed me like I wasn't even moving. Shot right past me. Did get me to go a little bit more, and I picked it back up. But still, it's called the Three Sisters. Over the last mile and a half, you have what are called the Three Sisters, and they are 3 hills that are very tough, very tough. And I could not run them at this point. I couldn't. And I made it to the top of the Three Sisters. I'm tired, exhausted, and I know I have about a quarter of a mile left to go, and trying to freshen myself up for the picture when you cross the finish line. And came over and came up this little ridge, and you have this last little down you pop out of the trail into where there's this big shelter, and there's the start finish line, and it's really fun. And so I popped out, and I crossed the finish line, and my wife is there. She's a saint. And Ben Holmes, who is the race director of the Trail Nerds and almost all of the Trail Nerd races, and he's been doing the PsychoWyco for a very long time. He's an awesome person. He's there, and he's like, "You got second place," and I was like, "Oh." I mean, I knew I probably wasn't in first. And here's the other thing: at this point, I ran the first loop in an hour and 33 minutes. I ran the second one in an hour and probably 50 minutes or hour and 55 minutes. So considerably slower. Across the finish line, my wife is sitting there or standing there. She knows I wanted to win, so she kind of stands off a little bit because she doesn't know how I'm going to react. And I take a seat, and they give me my medal and this sticker. I pretty much run for stickers. Someday I'll show you my car. And there was a gentleman, so my wife comes up and she goes, "Yeah, the guy who got first, he crossed the finish line," and goes, "I don't know, but Ben Keefe was not doing so well back there." And my wife was kind of concerned, but even kind of weirded out that he knew who I was. Well, his name is Steve Wood, I'm pretty sure, who won, who, quite frankly, I don't think there's anyone I would rather have beaten me. We have raced against each other for a very long time. And he was over the moon. He deserved it. He ran a good, hard race and was able to battle through those conditions and finish it. I've heard a phrase that I really like, which is, my serenity is inversely proportional to my expectations. I did have high expectations for that race, and I was not entirely serene. I was content afterwards, but I was disappointed. I was disappointed. I wanted to win, and I should have won. I don't think I did the right things the night before. I don't think I was mentally strong enough on the second loop when I should have been pushing it, or I should have been running up some of those hills. I took a little bit of an easier way out by saying I'm just going to power hike when I probably should have ran. But at the end of the day, I was in one piece. I didn't get hurt. it functioned as a good, really good, hard, long run, 20 miler before my April race. So it kind of fits in with my training. Um, you know, I had later on that afternoon, I went to my daughter had a soccer game and I'm her coach. And they played against a team that has just crushed them over and over and over again. And they probably played the best indoor soccer game I've ever seen them play. Um, they were fantastic. They still lost. They lost by 2 goals. It was 7-5. It was a great game. They were in it from the very beginning. But it kind of helped put me back into my place and give me a little bit better perspective on the day. That even if what you wanted didn't necessarily come out, there's it's not the end of the world. There are more important things. The fact that my wife was there when I crossed the finish line was wonderful. The fact that I got to smile and I get to do it again and I'll get to run that race again are good. And I learned some things, about better preparation and how I need to handle it. But on the whole, I would like to say thanks to my wife, Emily, to Ben Holmes, the race director, all the volunteers at the aid stations before and after getting the course prepped for the poor soul that had to go do course sweep after that one. And that was going to take hours. Good luck on that. Um, all of those folks who are out there, the folks that help run Wyandotte County Lake Park, they do a fantastic job. The trail nerds do most of the maintenance. It's a fantastic organization. Very proud to be a part of that organization and a member of the Trail Nerds. Um, to all of the other runners that competed against, it's a great day out there. A lot of positive vibes being sent all around from both the runners and to each other. And, you get to race another day. I came out in one piece, and, I'm very thankful that I even have these opportunities to get to do what I love, which is race. And that I hope that as I grow my own Andale racing club and start to get to share more of my own passion and my own races and my own training philosophies, my own coaching philosophies, that I can help share the love that I have for stuff like this and continue to grow. So thank you for watching this. If you made it all this way, I'm very impressed. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Peace.